Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. So last time I made my Syntakt video, I said that I really like this machine because I love to use it as a sketchbook to kind of generate idea. So in today's video, we're gonna recreate one of the patterns from scratch. So I will show you how to recreate each sound, but I will also share my thought process, how I add each track and why and in which order. And then next week will be another video where we basically take this pattern and turn it into a full track into Ableton. But first, let's have a listen how the final pattern sounds. Now to start on the same base, basically I recommend you to create a new project. So you press there, project, and you can kind of load a new project, and you can just like create a new. And when you are there, usually you can select the bank A, and then pattern, the one you want. We're gonna select pattern 5, and then you should have something that sounds like this. Hopefully you get something similar when you do that you as well. So usually before to start a track, I usually have pretty much an inspiration, like not the exact idea what I want to do, but more or less in which direction I want to go in terms of like, is it something more deep, round, melodic? Is it something more raw, hypnotic? I pretty much have this idea, even though this can obviously change. Yeah, I'm not like going in just one direction. And so I will usually start with the kick because I personally found it to be the foundation, and I found it easy to add layer, like melodic layer or hook layer to a kick, rather than the opposite. If you first do your hook or your melody, then it can be hard to find the good kick fitting the track. And so for the kick drum, I usually experiment, but I know pretty much where I want to go. So for example, today I want to kind of create, I wouldn't say like modern sounding, but like, yeah, a little bit in between deep and hard, but a bit modern, more kind of what you will find like in the Beatport charts. So something like a deep kick, but that got enough punch to don't be too deep neither. For this time I used actually the BG Modern from the digital. So here the pattern, we're gonna go classic 4/2 floor, so on 15913. The length, this is the overall pattern. I'm gonna press function yes. Okay, so now I have more values, so 16 for the kick, but then for the pattern, I'm gonna change the length to infinite. The reason why I do that is because if later we use polymeter, we don't have our sequence resetting in the weird way. So for the kick, I don't really have a rule. Like I said, I just experiment for here. You have to play with the tune and the sweeping. Maybe like that. And what can make the sound as well is obviously your shape here and the overdrive. So here we have something a bit more tough. Now, one thing I like is using filters. So I have different ways. Sometimes I will use a low pass filter, sometimes higher pass, sometimes peak. The thing with filter, with a high resonance modulating by an envelope, you can kind of emulate the pitch envelope. So we're gonna use here actually a high pass. We're gonna put at 0, but we can crank up the resonance, and we're gonna actually modulate this filter. So here you have to play with the envelope amount and the GK. And you can get different results. We can make sure the envelope reset as well. And then to the amp. You can make it shorter or longer depending what you like the most. I like we have a kind of a not too long kick because my plan is to add a bass line. Now a few other things you could do, you can play with the LFO maybe on the pitch to kind of accentuate the pitch envelope. You can always go back and tweak differently, but I kind of like the kick how it is now. One thing we can do though is we can add an extra step on the 15. So this way we add a bit of variation. Now this is happening too often, so we can use the probability. So you go to trigger, and in the condition, you can say like it's playing once every 4 times. So it doesn't happen too often. Now I have my kick. Usually I will go with the bass line because I need things to get grooving. We're gonna use one of the analog parts because you have dual VCOs. Reduce the decay. First thing is the oscillator config. So this you have very different style. I'm gonna use the 12 one. In terms of detuning, I like to have the 7 oscillator, 1 oscillator down. It's fine for me. Maybe I'm gonna bring a little bit the decay more up. So here maybe having more the second oscillator, which is in the low, to have a bit more bassy sound. We can crank up the overdrive a little bit. Anyway, we're gonna low pass everything. Now there is one thing I like to do is on the bassline is you use the bending. So either to kind of negatively, you're gonna have this kind of pitch modulation, which is almost like a glide, which is usually really nice on bassline. Like especially if you low pass. You have this nice sound. Here, I'm gonna put more like positively to kind of have more the kind of tom-like sound. Okay, we go into the filter, and here obviously, yeah, low pass filter, so maybe not that much resonance. So we're gonna go very low, but then we can use the envelope to decide how much of the high harmonics we want, because these high harmonics are great, but we don't want them over the whole period of time. Like we use the low pass filter to kind of muffle the sound, but then we use the envelope to kind of quickly catch some of the transient, or like let's say catch some of these harmonics to use as a transient. I hope it makes sense. So instead to have something to muffle, we have a bit of this mid-high information, but not too long, because we can adjust the decay as well to kind of make this transient a bit shorter. So then, yeah. This we can adjust later. Then the amp. Well, something like that. We're gonna see. Now, usually when I create bassline pattern, it's always a bit tricky. The first things I like to do is usually do polymeter with bassline, because this way your bassline will kind of be always shifting, and it's great for hypnotic techno, and it's avoid to have a too boring bassline that repeat too much. So here we can straight up decide to have something, let's say 5-step. Usually 5, 6, 7 works well. So here we're gonna have 5-step. And we go to trig, and that's where we can start to maybe create kind of a melody. So here I don't have especially rule, but let's say we change the first one. So first one we're gonna stay with D5. Second, maybe D sharp 5. This obviously you have to experiment until you find something you like. In 3 we can leave C5. Maybe something different here. A sharp 4, and then in 5 we can leave C5. Now here we have this. I kind of like it, but something feel a little bit off. And when this happening, sometimes like shifting your sequence can really give a different feeling to your kick and bassline groove. So here you can press funk and left arrow. I shift toward the right, and you can see that now step 1 used to be D5, and it's now C5, and the D5 is on step 2, and here it's gonna be D sharp, and then C, and then A sharp 4. And now let's listen. Okay, our bassline is maybe a little bit high in terms of volume. So we're gonna reduce this. So I feel my kick's a little bit weak. I'm just gonna crank up the volume here to the maximum. And now we're gonna add a bit of sidechain. So on the bass, you can do a bit of sidechain with the LFO on the amplitude, but on the Syntakt, you have this FX block, which is really great. So we're gonna decide first to route our bass to the FX track. And then we're gonna get rid of the drive because we don't really need the drive. Filter, we don't really need. And what we wanna do, we want the sidechain. So the way it's working, if you have to press rec and press where you want your FX to happen, and the idea is to do some sidechain. So we're gonna have our envelope at 0 here, so that means there is no sidechain, and we're gonna play and set it up the way we want. So obviously here we need to bring the attack 0, the hold 0, and then with the GK we can, yeah, maybe around 30. We have our kick bass rolling. Now, usually once I haven't done that, before to try to find the main hook or stuff, I like to put some hats first, just to have the things a bit groovier. So this really depends. Sometimes I lay just a classic close eye hat, 16 close eye hat, sometimes open hat. For this one, I wanted to use something maybe with a pattern a little bit different. But first, let's find a sound we like. I like with the Syntakt, you have plenty of nice hats to choose from. For this one, I use the Open Hats Classic. This really depends the track. Okay, this sounds good to me. We're not gonna filter it, not for this one. And amp. So here, let's reduce the hold, attack at 0, and then with the GK. What we can do is to have something maybe with sometimes a short GK, sometimes a long GK. Let me actually bring up the track level here. And then in terms of pattern, like I said, you could have the classic open hats. You can do your classic 16. You can do like a kind of a crescendo, play with the velocity. So here we're gonna do 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, maybe 9, 10, 12. But maybe we can change the step length. Okay, again, polymeter, nice. Now, one thing is missing is obviously delay and reverb. So we're gonna set this now for the track, and we're gonna put the delay at 48. We're gonna put it in ping pong. Bit of feedback. This way, and we're gonna put a bit of reverb, obviously. So. Okay, now let's set the reverb. No pre-delay, GK a little bit more longer, 57. So you can see here and here, 56. High pass filter. Okay, cool. So now what I want to do is to play actually with the GK to have different variation. So some steps will be with a short GK, other step with a long GK. And we can alter this, so we can start with a long GK and then short at 6, and then long and then short, this one long, this one short, this one long, and the 12 short. So now we got something like this. Alright, so now it's the moment of the track where I will think about putting down a hook, like a melody or hypnotic thing. So we're gonna go on track 5, and actually we're gonna use the chord one. I wanted a little bit a track in the style, almost like hard groove, but a bit hypnotic. So like having this chord, like in the hard groove style, but maybe more this kind of weird chord, like in the hypnotic. So I really like this sound engine because, well, first you can have different type of chord. One of the great strengths is with the sequencer and the step sequencer and the parameter lock, you can have like different step with different pitch and different chord types. So you can alter between minor, major, and all type of chord. So for example, you could have like let's mute. Let's put actually the track 8 step. And maybe this one. So here you could change different type of chord. Here I'm gonna stay the same, but I'm just gonna change maybe the pitch. Now we need to change a little bit this. First we can play with the wave. So that's crazy how just a little change can kind of change the tone a lot. A bit shorter, so we get this weird stuff. Now we can make it a little bit more crunchy if you want. Now a way to make it even weirder is to basically modulate the tune with the LFO, a little bit like vibrato. So that's what we're gonna do here. We go to the LFO and we're gonna select synth tune, yes. And we want obviously a very small amount. And maybe -3, fast LFO. Maybe change the waveform triangle. Almost a bit like FM. Maybe. And now we have this. Obviously, it's too much harmonic, so we're gonna use a low pass filter. Maybe bring down to 0. And use the envelope to kind of. And then you can really shape the way you want. If you want something a bit shorter, longer, this is something you can modulate later on as well. Now obviously it's very, very dry, so we're gonna add few things here. For first, the delay doesn't work. It makes too busy and kind of break a little bit the groove. Now we can use some sidechain. I'm gonna actually maybe reduce the velocity of the first one to kind of give a little bit more groove and impulsion, because it's on the same time on the kick. And then we can do the same down with the bass, like sending it through the FX block to kind of get this pumping effect. So we go to our routing and we send track 5. And let's see now how it is. So I still feel it's missing something. We're gonna try to use micro shifting, maybe move this note here, which is a little bit on the side. Definitely after. Yeah, I feel here it's right. Okay, I feel it's too repetitive. Maybe we can change the pitch on this one. Say I'm gonna play and change the note until I found something sounds good to me. Okay, pretty happy with this one. And with the overall groove. Now, I like this chord, but I think there is two things. First, it's kind of missing a little bit of weirdness. Like I feel it's not weird enough. And second, I feel like this is gonna be very hard to modulate over a long period of time. Like obviously you can play with the filter and the GK, but you might get bored very fast. So we kind of need to find a way to maybe add a bit of extra tone. So what we can do is we can actually duplicate the track, and to make it a bit weird, we can kind of change the pitch, like tuning differently. So we're just gonna copy track 5 sound. We go to track 6 and we paste. And now we need to copy and paste the sequence. So in sequencer mode, function copy. Up, we go to the 6. Up and paste. So we paste the track, and now we have both tracks the same. Okay, so first we can actually remove the LFO maybe on this one. Let's actually play them both together. And maybe we can tune them differently. Yeah, I changed actually the synth type and a little bit the waveform, and that's gonna be great to add an extra layer of weirdness and an extra layer of tone maybe later on in the track, just to add a bit of more modulation than just the filter and GK. Now this kind of hard groove track, and if you wanna have a good like pass test to see if it's working well, it's usually to put the clap on the beat. So I'm gonna just move the track 12 and we're gonna use the track 4 as a clap. So we need a clap. So here we have just one synth engine for clap, which actually sounds very good. And here we're gonna try to have on 15913 just to have like this. Maybe you can put a trigger condition once every 3, so like this is not like exactly like with in the same time than the clap. And it's kind of, again, this kind of polymeter always shifting kind of things. Okay, now we can adjust our clap. Filter, we're not gonna filter anything. Maybe we're gonna shorten it, so 0 attack. Because we want something snappy and not too long. A bit of reverb, obviously. Right, one thing I like to do for my clap is sometimes I like to have different variations. So here, for example, I will have just maybe I want a different variation. And here there is the page and the page loop in the new update, which allow you to have a kind of different pattern of you clap on the same pattern track. So here, if I hold page, you see you can have 4 different page loop, and here I have just one because I'm just in 16. But if I put 32, now I go to the 32 page and I have a different pattern here, let's say, and now I can select just to play this one, and now it's just playing this one. And yeah, so here I've done this twice, but you can do it 4 because you can have different page. So yeah, this is something great as well to have different patterns. It works as well for hats. It works basically for everything. Okay, sounds good to me. So now we have a solid bass. We can maybe add a bit more drums just to like later on have more variation on the drum. So I'm gonna use here the track 11, and we're gonna use the noise to create kind of hats. So the noise, and we want something pretty sharp here. We're gonna do a kind of a closer hat. Maybe we can actually sequence this like just classic 16 close hat pattern. Now with hat we can actually play with the filter as well. Sometimes you can use a high pass filter and play with the resonance. Usually it's always playing with the resonance to accentuate. Here we can, you see, it's kind of give you the pitch almost of your hat. So we're not gonna use any envelope, and there we need actually to change the mode like this AHD. So we have attack, hold, and decay. Yeah, around 16. We want something very sharp, eh? Continuing with the drum, we're gonna use this time an open hat, and we're gonna put it on the track 3, and we're gonna use the cymbal engine, which is here, alloy. So here I want to open hats, kind of offbeat, so 3, 7, 11, 15, and I want something like almost like a shaker open hat. I don't know, this kind of open hat, but with a bit of attack, which kind of give a nice aspiration effect. Just like tune a little bit our sound. So I like to play with the radio. It gives you a lot of different nice flavor. I'm just gonna put both to the maximum 127, no modulation, and this to the max. Okay, here we're not gonna use any filter. And we're gonna do this aspiration effect like I said. Now we're gonna move the attack to have this. That's what I'm looking for. This kind of effect. Even sharper, let's put a bit of reverb. Okay, let's see the track. Now it's great, but one thing happen with when you do that with the attack, like basically you kind of have an attack and kind of delay the attack. So you might want to shift your open hat a little bit off the grid to kind of get a groovier effect, to kind of compensate this attack parameter that you change. So here again, we can do some micro shifting. So you select all the step and you press here. Maybe I should have played before. Here, too much. Sounds good. Obviously, if you go, this is too. This sounds good compared to. Now I could use another extra hat layer like a ride, but we're gonna change a little bit because I need to do something else. Usually this is something the ride I know I can just add at the end, so it's just for this extra grooviness and kind of this extra climax. So that's not something I'm gonna focus now. So here we are at the point where our idea is solid and we are pretty much trying to start to think about building the track, but obviously it's missing few elements because if we have just that, we're gonna get bored. But we are at the point as well that maybe adding another element is a bit risky because that might shift you from the main idea. So you could think maybe we can add a percussion, like playing answering question with the chord, or more like at the end of the bar, a bit syncopated, kind of add this extra impulse to our loop. And this is something I'm gonna keep in the back of my head, and maybe later on we'll do it in Ableton. Mainly because I feel like it will be easier for me with Ableton to kind of put the perk I have in my head like kind of FM-ish, bit weird. To be honest, it's something I need to experiment a lot, and I'm not sure that the Syntakt can do what I have in my head. Now we can add the synth, kind of more melodic element, but here again the risk is to kind of shift the mood, shift the main idea from what we have. You know, you're gonna start to try to add melodic element, and it's gonna kind of steal the show from the main idea, and you're gonna kind of divert into two tracks into one track. So I don't really want to do that. Now you could think about adding a kind of a pad, like more like a texture and background, which is a good idea. We could actually create a noisy texture, but this is something, again, I'm gonna do it in Ableton, not here, because it's gonna be easier for me to put out in Ableton, like this kind of noisy crackling texture. We can use a pad maybe. The thing sometimes with pad, the problem is that if you're gonna use like kind of a steady, you don't want the chord progression because obviously it's gonna take you off the mood of the chord and you hook, but you can have like kind of a steady high-pitched pads playing the whole thing. That can be a good idea actually, but I'm scared as well it's gonna be a little bit too steady and kind of break a little bit the groove of the chord. But I might have an idea for that. Maybe you can kind of modulate the volume or like the filter to make kind of your pad goes in and out, you know, during the tracks. Like you don't have the steady stuff, you have more like an impression of something coming in and out and in and out. So let's try to do something like that. So let's go to track 7. And so here in terms of scent, the best to do that I would say is the swarm, because obviously pad where it's shine is when you have like a lot of detune, like this kind of phasing and detuning effect. That's what makes the sound rich. So for pad it's kind of the best. You see this kind of sound. So we want more like a kind of a high-pitched sound in the background. So then depends if you want something very detune and kind of weird, or more something kind of more subtly detune. Here I want something weird, so maybe not 137, but a little bit before, like to get this. GK we can leave how it is. Now you have noise modulation. This add noise, we don't really need that. And then you have the detune animation. I'm gonna leave it at 127. We can add a suburb PC later maybe. And a bit of overdrive. Although the sub we might filter it later. Okay, that's a good bass. Now let's use a high pass filter because we want to kind of have very high pitched scent. And okay, one thing though, we need a I'm adding the delay and the reverb now because this kind of pad you need to see how it sounds into the space. Maybe a little bit less delay. Okay, let's go back to our filter. Maybe we can use the other filter. You have like a kind of a bandpass filter here. Okay, let's try to program it. Usually you have one long step here. I'm just gonna put like this. Okay, now let's see in the context of the track with the other element. Maybe let's put it as well in the FX chain. Okay, it's great to get this wet fading, but it's a bit too steady. So like I said, we could add movement with the volume to bring it up and down like a back and forth. We can do that, modulate with the LFO, but we can maybe modulate not the volume, but maybe we can modulate our filter frequency. And maybe something slower. Okay, let's see in the context of the track. Okay. Okay, that's cool because we have the scent coming like in and out, and this kind of with the filtering is very nice. All right, now we are at the point that I feel like to add maybe another extra melodic element, but again something a little bit discrete, maybe something like bleepy that goes in and out. So you might think like, okay, again it's gonna might take out of the main idea, but again something very simple. And also I rather to have like kind of too many tracks, and then when I go to the arrangement I just get rid of it, even if I'm doing it for nothing. I rather be in that position to have too many tracks than in the opposite, where you think you have enough track, then you go in Ableton, you start the arrangement, and then you feel like, oh, okay, now I need to add something, and you don't have something to add, and then you start to sync, and that kind of slow down the process, the arrangement, make you doubt, and that can kind of make you not finish the track. So the idea is like this kind of bleepy thing. We're gonna use the synth from the chip on the analog part, which is kind of a ARP things. We can keep the triangle. Let's actually have a longer decay. And 16 dot. Okay. Now obviously how you're gonna change the offset, like it's basically the pitch of your kind of arpeggiator. That's how it's gonna create the melody. So 6 usually is working well, minus 3. And this obviously you have to see with the rest of your track, or mainly the chord. Okay, that's great. Maybe need more drive. Not really need the filter. Maybe add a bit of delay. Okay, before to move into the modulation, let's actually program it. Here, one step, and we're gonna set actually the length to 12 step. And the note maybe less change because I'm not sure about the rest of the track if it's fitting well. Something like this. The length is off as well. Okay. Let me actually put back the kick. I like, but now it's obviously very steady. Need to make it move a little bit like the pad. You know, pad initially was very steady, but adding movement was gonna make it a little bit more interesting. So first we can modulate this volume to kind of, like I said, bring it in and out. Volume, yes. Again, triangle, kind of like the triangle. This we need to set in 3. Then the volume is low, so maybe just like -4. And then it's all about the speed. So Elektron is always very weird about the multiple and speed. There is this kind of Excel sheet that you can find online with all the right things to know what speed to put, how to set basically your speed and multiple to get the right speed you want. So I feel it's a little bit too loud compared to the rest. Maybe even more like. That's something that you can modulate the pan as well with the LFO. So actually I'm gonna do straight up here. I'm gonna go to the second LFO, destination, amp, pan, yes. We're gonna use the sine wave here. Let me actually kind of solo it so like this we can hear better. Maybe. And then obviously it's always like this kind of weird. Maybe instead of having like something exact, we can have something a bit off the grid in terms of speed LFO. Okay, good. I think we have mainly all of our elements. So now we still have like a 2-track free. So the 2 I keep it for the ride. We're gonna do it last because it's not really the most important. We have another track 8 here. We can use again like on follow kind of a weird blippy SFX. We can use it for maybe FME. So let's use the SE tone. Oh, pardon. Sorry, I put the. Okay, let's use the low pass filter to kind of filter this harsh frequency with an envelope. Okay, now let's add a bit of. So the best way to kind of get this kind of weird SFX is to get LFO on the pitch. So we're gonna use LFO1 and we're gonna send tune. And having this kind of random fast pitch changing. So okay. Let's see this. Okay, and this we can make it play like once every 32 step. Maybe we can change the pan to make it like kind of also change with the LFO automatically like we done previously. So oh, maybe not that much, but this and wave. Yeah, let's try to make kind of weird speed so it doesn't kind of always sync to the grid. I need to be in 3. Alright, we're getting there finally. The last element, which is gonna be our ride. We're gonna do it in step 2. We're gonna use the side alloy symbol. And here we're gonna use the kind of classic offbeat, but we're gonna put them one on the beat, but at a lower velocity. So let's say halfway, like around 40, 48, let's say, up. So this kind of creates this impulse. Okay, well here we don't have that much decay, so maybe. Okay, this dun-gun kind of effect. And then after just play with the tune, shimmer. So this you kind of need the. Okay, this is really like, maybe we can fine tune it later, but now the idea is to also high pass filter it. Like I said before, I haven't done it before, but we're gonna do it here. You can use the high pass up. Maybe. Here the same, but we need a bit of reverb. Okay. Maybe we need to put it in. Okay, now we are at the point where I'm actually pretty happy. I think I have enough element. Obviously, like I said, I want to add a perk in extra. We're gonna need do some modulation with the chords, but I think we have a solid base to start with in Ableton. And yeah, let's just jam a little bit before to finish to see how we can play a little bit with. Alright, also hope you liked this video. Next week we're gonna take this and basically put it into Ableton and kind of transform it into a full track. Now obviously it's not like perfect, but that's the idea of the sketchbook. It doesn't have to be perfect, you just have to have the idea and few elements at least to get a solid base, and I think that's what we have here. So I'm really looking forward to put this into Ableton and to make a full track. Now if you don't want to miss this video, it's gonna be next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we're gonna finish with me jamming. And yeah, bye bye guys.